Namaste viewers. So I'm going to talk a bit about myself because it's very obvious that people would like to learn from me or from Vishuddhi Isha Yoga, would like to know about the lead trainer and the teachers over here. So in this session or the short video, I would like to talk about myself a bit so people who are interested to learn from me can know me better. It's always good to know your teacher before you decide to learn from that person online or physically, face to face kind of a learning coaching. So I normally don't talk about myself, but I would try my best. I'm not so good into it, so I will try to walk you through a bit about my life, where I was born and my education, my life events, my life story. Everybody has a life story and life is a journey. I also have gone through a lot in my life. I also lived ordinary life like everybody lives, but there were certain twists and turns and the intense moments in my life. I would rather call them events which really shaped my life in a different direction. So starting from, I was born in late 70s in north of India, a city called Allahabad, which is also known as Prayagraj nowadays. It's a convergence, a place where the three rivers converges. So it's also known as a very pious and the sacred religious place for Hindus. And I was born on the full moon day, especially on the day of Holi. So that day, coincidentally, it was Holi. So my birthday was always quite special in my family because it used to coincide with a very famous Hindu festival of colors, love and brotherhood, and the victory of goodness over evil. So, well, I feel that my childhood has been quite challenging, owing to the fact that I was born in a spiritual family. Though being born in a middle class family, we had a lot of issues, especially my parents had a lot of issues, and my parenting has been quite tough, and even I had some difficulties coping up in my earlier days in my education and making friends. And so in a way I struggled a lot. You can say I was a late bloomer. Those challenges which I faced in my childhood, whether it was through my parents, my understanding with them, maybe I was very different, actually made me quite matured in the earlier years itself, because a lot of kids are normally busy in their routine, the childish kind of activities, playful activities, but because of all the challenges I got from my parents and my teachers as well in my school, my schooling was also tough, and I was not able to understand a lot of things which my teachers were teaching me in the school, and there was a lot of peer and the parental pressure which was constantly coming. So kind of it shunned my natural abilities to express and my confidence. However, I don't want to talk much about my education because it is irrelevant. Now when I look back, it seems everything happens for a reason. Though as a young man, I did my master's in business from a reputed business school in India. Get a good degree from university and then probably, hunt for a good job. That's all most of the youths in my country and all over the world are being programmed to do. So I wasn't any exception. I was always encouraged and motivated by my parents to make my career, maybe go to a good university, have a master's degree, get a good job, and then become successful. You earn good money. If not good, then at least decent enough to meet the two ends, and not just meet the two ends, but live a decent lifestyle. So I was also inspired and, motivated to be that successful young man in my career, which actually I did. I went ahead and completed my master's degree in business from a reputed college in India, and I even went ahead and made my career in marketing and advertising. I worked with corporates after passing out from my university and graduation. So I've seen a lot of success and failures in life. Obviously, when you start as a young man, you bound to see a lot of struggles because that's how the system has been designed, that you need to learn a lot of things, you are not experienced, and also the system stops you for different reasons. But I started growing very fast in my career. I was naturally talented for marketing and advertising, and I got a good leads and tasted good success, and also a few setbacks because I was immature, quite young. Well, a lot of things happened in my life, in my personal life. I'm not going to narrate you everything, and kind of you'll be bored hearing all those things. So I had some personal failures in my life when it comes to my personal life, like my marriage, my relationships, and all those events that personal or professional or relationship with my siblings or people around and the society by and large, what we have been witnessing, the chaos and all the news that comes to you, no matter how much you try to filter it out, but you still get affected. So I wasn't an exception, and I also got affected by a lot of those things. However, my personal life has been quite intense. It has been with a lot of fatalistic touch to it, and there has been a lot of twists and turns in my life which actually shaped my psychological process and the mental process. All those life experiences actually helped me to understand a different perspective about my life. All the challenges which the life threw at me, I accepted it, but it hasn't been so easy. There was a time when I also thought about giving up. I have been depressed with a lot of things, a lot of setbacks that have been constantly coming to me. But there was always something inside me that I'm not born to lead a normal life. There's nothing wrong with a normal. Unless we don't lead a normal life and we don't taste it, we don't get frustrated with it, by then you cannot lead something extraordinary. So initially my interest in the spirituality was more about finding the deeper answers of my own problems, because it was overwhelming for me to deal with all those issues being alone, all alone. Never had a support of the family or friends, and I've been moving around from one place to the other place, always catching up because life has been so tough. I feel everyone's life is tough, so not trying to say that I've been an exception when it comes to the challenges of the life. But there are certain things which happen in my life which kind of shaken me up. There's no need for me to share that, because what is not important, how anything that happens in your life shapes you and how you come out of it as a stronger individual and as a person, that really matters. So life events and the personal losses shaped and transformed me as an individual. It allowed me to go deeper into my personal spiritual quest and the explorations. As I went deeper into my spiritual divings, which, as I said, were initially limited to my own life issues and problems, it eventually led me to reach out to different spiritual masters and gurus. And I'm so fortunate that I got an opportunity to learn from a few of enlightened and awakened masters in India. And I'm so grateful to them, because without their support and assistance, I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have been anything at all. So I owe everything to my parents, to my teachers and masters. My parents actually helped me to grow up. They raised me, they gave me values, they supported me in whatever capacity they could, in whatever abilities they had. And my masters and gurus actually educated me to develop a deeper sense of perception and understanding and knowledge base that I'm been using to educate others now, with the grace of God and with the blessings of my masters and gurus. So my journey as a teacher, trainer and therapist, I would like to talk a bit about that, because that is the most important aspect most of the people watching this video would be interested to know about. So I never planned to become a yoga teacher, a trainer or therapist. It was purely accidental, incidental, because I was pursuing and chasing some other career. I changed 2-3 careers already before I settled into the yoga profession, but I never planned yoga to be a profession. I was planning to be something else, maybe in education and training industry, but not teaching yoga, teaching some other things like soft skill. I worked as a life coach before I became a yoga teacher. At the age of 32, I decided to be a yoga teacher. I'm 42 now, so already 10 to 12 years into yoga. But I was always a trainer. Before becoming a yoga and Ayurveda teacher, I always been a trainer and teacher, educating people, imparting education and knowledge seems to be my life path, and there hasn't been any deviation in that since then. So there was a time when I came into yoga because I wanted to heal myself. There were a lot of things happening in my life. There was a stage in my life almost 13-14 years back when like sky was falling on my head. All the adversity, all the problems and unfortunate events were striking me like some bad phase in my life, and whether it was my personal life, professional life, everything was falling apart. It was a testing time. We all have those two phases, 2 or 3 phases, depends what kind of karmas we have done in our past lives. So we all face those kind of phases in our life which are very tough. So I was in that 12 years back, and I didn't know what to do. I was so depressed, and I was losing it. And then after a few months of inactivity and being into this dark hole, I decided to come out and take some help. So I decided to attend a yoga retreat in southern part of India. It was more like an ashram than a commercial school. I volunteered there. I learned a lot. I just remained in that place for almost 6 months. I lived there in a very humble way. That was the starting point of me entering into yoga and the spiritual teachings. I would say that my journey as a teacher or trainer in my professional role has been quite similar to my personal one. I mean, in the sense that in both, I always faced challenges, but I always remained open to learn and grow. I would say that the only difference, if I can find, is that in the role of a teacher, you are more meticulous. You are not allowed to make mistakes because you have a sense of responsibility, whether it's personal, ethical, moral, or professional. You always like to be correct. You always like to be accurate. You have a lot of experience. You make efforts to learn from the formal, informal education and your experiences as a teacher, and then you bring out all those experiences and knowledge to your students. Whereas in your personal life, you are a student, and you're a student of a life, you're an individual, you're a soul traveling on this journey of life, but you don't judge yourself. You don't try to be too accurate. You don't try to be perfectionist. You just like to flow around and float on the ocean of life. And if you commit mistakes, we all make mistakes. But in the role of teacher, you can't do many mistakes. However, I'm not saying I didn't commit mistakes. Of course, we as a teachers are not perfect. We make mistakes too. But we try to, or we strive to reach towards perfection, at least in the faculties, or at least the subjects or the topics that we teach as a teacher. So essentially, what I'm trying to say that in a role of a professional teacher or mentor, you have that responsibility to teach and educate others and make some difference in their life. You take that responsibility that you have to hold them, and you have to guide and assist them in a way that they should be able to have some spiritual awakening or experience. At least being a mentor and a spiritual teacher, I always try to do my best with the best of my ability and the knowledge base to provide that kind of an experience and inculcate that kind of a discipline in my students so that they can go ahead and get something out of it, not just some knowledge base, but also in terms of some awakening and spiritual transformation. So I always make it a goal as a teacher to give my 100%, or maybe more than 100%, but obviously it depends on the students as well, because we cannot teach anything to anyone unless somebody is not interested to absorb it. So it's a two-way process, and I always believe that I can only do half of that, which is my part. So we all commit errors, as I said. So my journey as a teacher has been a learning curve in terms of what I've been teaching, in terms of how I've been teaching, and even my personal growth, the spiritual awakening and transformation within myself has evolved me allowed me to evolve as a different sort of teacher. I used to be a different teacher 10 years back, but now I feel because I evolved as an individual, so I've become a different teacher now. In the sense that when there's something happening inside you, as a spiritual mentor, you would like to share that. Whether it is in terms of experiencing certain things while you're going through that awakening process, or you share your vast teaching experience in terms of technicalities, in terms of methodologies and techniques, tools. So I can teach and impart knowledge with no difficulty, but my sincere effort is actually to inspire and motivate my students, so that they go ahead and keep learning, keep practicing and keep experiencing all that what I have taught them. And I don't really ask them to limit themselves to learn just from me, but from other teachers and mentors also, who are the part of this beautiful spiritual yoga fraternity and community. Well, what I teach now in terms of topics or the course subjects in yoga are quite simple. I started with classical hatha yoga, which is a foundation of any system of yoga. Then my interest kind of started moving towards therapeutic form of yoga. So from teaching classical hatha yoga, I evolved myself to become a therapeutic yoga teacher, where I would actually help people to do yogasanas and all the meditations, pranayamas to heal themselves. But I teach a classical hatha style of yoga. That is my foundation. And then over the period of time, almost 6-7 years back, I started teaching more therapy, and now I teach Kundalini Kriya Yoga, yoga therapy. That is regarding yoga, but I also teach Ayurveda. So I teach Ayurveda, basic, advanced, diet, nutrition and herbalism, and also clinical practice. And I also give holistic healing consultations using yoga and Ayurveda therapy, and I give consultations in Vedic astrology as well. So apart from the hardcore academic kind of courses like teacher training courses, I also do yoga courses which are not so intensive but quite rich in content, knowledge, skills, and kind of creating a structure of the practice for the student who comes here and join. But close to my heart, I would like to say that I love healing people through yoga and Ayurveda. Close to my heart. I'm not saying that I'm not a teacher anymore. Once you have a skill and experience with you for so many years, you always know that. You know your trade and you can always share it. So I'm still a yoga teacher trainer, but I feel that urge of healing people, reducing their pain and miseries, all the disorders that people are facing cannot be treated effectively with the conventional Western allopathic medicine. So yoga and Ayurveda is going to play a very crucial role, which I call essentially a part of our alternative holistic healing therapies. They are going to play a very huge role in healing people who are suffering with all the chronic disorders in the world today. So I'm focusing more on healing people. So that kind of an approach reflects in my teachings as well. So my programs are quite therapeutic. They are derived out of the ancient classical hatha yoga system, and it is quite relevant. It's quite scientific. It's quite contemporary in the sense that it caters to the need of modern yogis and the practitioners of yoga in whichever part of the world they are coming from. So my goals and missions, I would like to conclude this with my goals and missions. My goals and missions are quite simple. I would like to teach people the core skills through which they become yoga teachers and therapists and healers. So I use yoga and Ayurveda. So because I know and I am experienced in both yoga and Ayurveda therapy, so I bring that combined knowledge in my teacher training courses, in my yoga courses, and also I teach Ayurveda courses separately. So my goal and mission is actually to help people to become teachers, healers, therapists, but also to be able to experience spiritual awakening and a deeper movement within themselves. Well, yoga and Ayurveda has been a way of life for me. I've been living it for almost 12 years, seriously and professionally. But before that as well, I was lucky enough to be introduced to the spiritual Vedic sciences through my parents and my schooling. And I think my goal and mission is to spread the ancient Vedic sciences across the globe and the masses, crossing all borders, so that people's sufferings, their pain can be mitigated and reduced to some extent. I mean, I feel that humans need to become more conscious about their existence, what's happening in the world with all the violence, hatred, greed, the power trips. All these things are essentially taking us towards downfall. We need to connect with love and compassion. We need to expand our consciousness, open our heart, and try to embrace the humanity as a whole. We are humans, and if we don't practice humanity, which is basically based on the principles of love, compassion, and brotherhood, then I feel that the whole and sole purpose of existing on this planet is defeated, because we are essentially destroying this planet. We are abusing the mother nature, and we are using science for our greed and for our lofty ambitions and misplaced goals and intentions. So I feel that we need to have a peaceful coexistence. We need to spread brotherhood. We have to move from compassion and love. When this happens, then there would be no diseases, there would be no disorder, pain, sufferings, and health and harmony and happiness would prevail on its own. So thanks a lot. This was my sincere effort actually to talk to you. Obviously, it's not enough. If you want to interact with me, then you can always talk to me on Google Meet or Zoom Meet, and I'm always there for people who would love to learn from me, or in general also they would like to have a spiritual discussion. So I encourage enthusiastic, interested people who want to be a student of Vishuddhi Isha Yoga, learn personally with me, or even the teachers and healers and therapists who are already doing an amazing job in spreading these beautiful Vedic sciences throughout the world in all the masses. They would like to connect with me. I encourage them, and it's always good to meet like-minded people. So thanks a lot. Namaste. I'll see you around soon.